Tyler Gregg. Nice to see you. Cool. Yeah, nice to meet you. Yeah, that's awesome. What's up, man? How are you doing? Good to see you. You doing all right? Good.
Go out with me today. Yeah, I know it's technology.
Yeah.
Sometimes I leave this out for.
We're to steal. You right, Wilson.
Yeah. All right, ready? Yeah. Gotcha.
Thank you, brother. Thank you, my man. Hope this thing won't be that long.
Huh?
So hopefully it won't be that long. I gotta take care of some business.
Hey, man. How are you? Good to see you. Wrong. I think we are on. Yeah. Doing good, doing good.
You want this here or down here? Well, that's yours. This is theirs. This is just for them to see. Okay, this is how much time I have left. Which I feel like makes a good visual of it there. It's in the peripheral. Yep, that's up there. No, we don't give any parking passes out. Just, yeah, it's just meter parking.
Calhoun? Not much. Appreciate your helping me out. What do you mean? On the dance floor? you know that that damn Elliot Powell. I mean, oversharing. He is something else. Hey man, how you doing? Good to see you, man. Nobody saw one in the house. Nope. Right. I got you. Regina may not show up. Hey, it wasn't a joke. But it was good. It was really good. He is. Yes, sir. Good morning, everyone. I'd like to welcome everyone to the June 13th, 2017 meeting of the City of Columbia Board of Zoning Appeals. I'm Chuck Sally, and I serve as chair of the board. And at this time, I'd like to introduce the other members of the board. To my far left is Reggie McKnight, and to my immediate left is Calhoun McMeekin, and then to my right is Gene Dinkins, and to my far right is Tyler Gregg. Regina McKnight may be coming in as well. She sits to my right. At this time, I'd like to introduce the members of the staff that will assist the board during the meeting. Brian Cook is zoning administrator, and
Rachel Bailey.
yeah, thank you. Sorry about that. You're not on my list. The board is charged with hearing applications for special exceptions, variances, and administrative appeals. All testimony is recorded for the record, and anyone wishing to speak will need to be sworn and must come up to the podium and speak. No testimony may be taken from the floor. When you come up to the podium, state your name and please speak clearly into the microphone because the meeting is being recorded. For those of you who plan to speak, you must be sworn. So if you're here as an applicant or to speak on any case, please stand at this time and raise your right hand. Do you affirm or attest that the testimony you will give today is the truth and nothing but the truth? Thank you. This time, I'd like to turn it over to staff.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. The board uses a timer, as you can see, for anybody that would speak. It's green, yellow, and red, so green, kind of what you think it would be. And the applicant gets 10 minutes to do their presentation. The public that would like to speak, 3 minutes, and 5 minutes for closing of the applicant. We also use the consent agenda. The consent agenda is used by the board for routine matters by a single motion and vote. If a member of the board or the general public wants to discuss an item on the consent agenda at the beginning of the meeting, that item is removed from the consent agenda and considered during the meeting. The items on the consent agenda today are: number 1, approval of the May 9th, 2017 meeting minutes. Number 2, case 2017-0047 special exception. It's at 854 Galway Lane, tax map 16303-0101. That's a special exception to renovate and construct improvements to a school, a Hammond school. Item number 3 is 2017-0049 special exception. It's 5307 Main Street, tax map 11705-03 and 13. Special exception to establish a daycare. Mr. Chairman, this concludes your consent agenda. Is there anyone on the board or anyone in the audience that would like an item removed from the consent agenda at this time?
I see none.
Make a motion to approve the minutes and the consent agenda based on the documentation in our in those applications and case summaries, subject to the recommendations by staff.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. All in favor say aye. Aye. All opposed? Motion carries.
Items on the consent agenda today is number 4. It's 2017-0044 variance, 3700 Main Street, tax map 09209-20-04 and 09209-20 and 03. The variance to the parking requirements for a multifamily use intended for occupancy by the elderly. The applicant is requesting this variance to the parking requirements for a proposed 3-story, 58-unit multifamily development, again intended for occupancy by the elderly. The parking requirements for this use would normally be 116 parking spaces, which is 2 parking spaces per dwelling unit. Prior to and including applicable parking reductions, the applicant is proposing 47 parking spaces instead. The applicant is here today and can answer any questions.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Anybody have any questions? I know we were here last month. I know a few of you were missing. And someone asked for some very specific information. I think we've provided that in your packet, along with some letters of support, community meeting from a few years ago, and community meeting from a couple weeks ago. So we'll be happy to answer any additional questions you may have.
I think the additional parking comparables table and handout is helpful. I think that was some of the real information we were looking for last time, and rather than just it works. So I think that's helpful. If there's anything you want to expand upon, any of the different sites that you've referenced here, I think that might be helpful to us.
I'm really only familiar with, and maybe Mr. No, you don't want to expand upon it. No, I mean, they've been doing senior houses. I've personally taken the time to drive around senior houses myself, or senior units. I know in Columbia, just to see, just a visual look. And I noticed that most of them are empty during the day and after work. And as I said before, we have 75 parking spaces next door. And I know there was a point made that the plaza is not at 100% occupied. Well, that's true, but it's at 98% occupied. And we still have about 30 or 40 spaces empty a day. There was a point asked that visitors would come. Well, these are 1-bedroom apartments. You're only going to have so many visitors that can fit in your apartment.
Yes, ma'am. Thank you. Would you like to speak?
My name's Daryl Jones with Integral Development out of Atlanta. We're the developer So the information we tried to provide were comparables here locally, within the city, as well as just other cities of the size in the state and in the region. And we manage roughly 15 communities like this around the country. We're normally arguing for 0.5, so it's, 0.8 for us is not really pushing the envelope, much at all from our perspective. So we just wanted to provide you with that information. Also, since we met last, we did meet with the community Hyde Park, who had some concerns about the parking. And you'll notice in your package, you also have a letter of support from them now as well. So we had a chance to go through this and talk through it, because we do want to be good neighbors as well.
Very good. Is there anyone else here to speak in favor or opposition to this proposal? So I believe we already have on record for this case the reasons for this variance, and as we discussed earlier, was that the real issue was some lack of information about the additional parking here, and I think we have that information now. Is there any questions from the board? Is there a motion for this application?
Mr. Chairman, I'd like to make a motion that we approve the variance to the parking requirements for the planned multifamily use for the subject property, subject to all staff comments.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. All in favor say aye. Aye. All opposed? Motion carries.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Next item is item number 5, 2017-0045 variance at 1912 Rosewood Drive, tax map 1130915 and 05. It's a variance to permit an encroachment of a building into the buffer transition yard. This is a existing corner lot, has an existing smaller structure on it. The applicant is requesting the existing structure to remain, so he'd be able to add 600 square foot addition that it would be flush with the current structure. And in doing so, he would encroach somewhat within the buffer transition yard. And the applicant is here today and he can explain his request.
Hey, good morning, everybody. So what we're trying to do on Rosewood, in our existing location, we're having a pretty hard time with parking. I'm not sure if you guys are familiar with that area or the business at all, but we opened up a few years ago and we've been really successful on Rosewood, but we've only got 5 parking spaces where we are, and it's starting to hurt our business and a business beside us, and so we're trying to move over to this parking lot as soon as possible. And with the layout of the parking lot, it would work best for us to just kind of put that building aligned with the back of the current structure instead of the front. I feel that this would be in alignment with the spirit of the ordinance of the residential buffer yard, because it would allow us to keep our customers, you see it kind of forms an L shape up there, it would allow us to keep our customers within that kind of corner pocket instead of having to go out to the side of the building, which would further allow us to kind of block any noise disturbance from going to those neighbors behind us, which currently they're actually doing a site development back there to kind of increase the intensity of the use, which makes it a little bit easier to work with stuff. Scott Linneberry is the owner of that property, and I've already spoke with him about everything that we want to do. He doesn't see any issues with, a little bit of a, invasion into that residential yard, as long as, everything else stays pretty contiguous with the requirements. So, any questions you guys have on it, I'd be happy to answer them.
So you're moving into an existing building on a lot that appears to be on the property line. And then you want to add a deck to that? Is that,
No, sir, so it'd be an additional physical structure. The deck is kind of a plus. It could be something, it could not be something. It's not currently on the plans to do it immediately. We wanted to add an extra, I forget how many exactly square feet, but just a couple hundred square feet just for operational space.
that's what's shown in this sketch? That brown line where it says on the floor plan?
Yes, sir. Kind of in that corner pocket. Yes, sir, that's kind of the idea, is to have a deck right there, yeah.
So that's an enclosed structure?
So it'd be, think of like the front porch of a Cracker Barrel. So that's kind of what that would be. There would be an overhang to cover that kind of seating area on that front deck. We're a walk-up service, so you come to the window, you place your order, and you go sit down. So the idea would be have some customer seating and hangout space up there and in front of the building.
So it's a covered porch?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Gotcha. So it wouldn't make, in other words, the building is, I guess, non-conforming, so the addition covered porch would also be non-conforming since it's attached to the building. Is that, Brian, is that what I'm understanding here?
Building is non-conforming in the terms of landscaping, not as so much in the terms of setbacks because of the general commercial zoning. So landscaping, yes, we non-conforming. The structure itself would meet the zoning setbacks.
But I'm looking at the zoning, I mean, the building is on the property line. Isn't that in the zoning setback?
No, it's not. Again, it would encroach into the buffer potentially, but not into the setbacks. So you'd be looking at a primary front, a secondary front, and then 0 on 2 sides, basically. Being a corner lot.
All right, so just so I can understand them, so he needs a variance
To the landscape buffer?
for the landscaping buffer.
Correct. So he would meet the setbacks, and will meet the setbacks for the building or the addition. The landscape buffer between the residential zone property and his property is what he's asking for the variance to construct the addition.
So there's also some additional landscaping shown here. Is that going to be completed as part of this application?
Yes, sir. So one of the main reasons that we had submitted a variance request was also sort of for a time allowance. I'm not sure exactly what code that would be considered, but my understanding from the City of Columbia, which has really been helpful in teaching us how to get a business started since we did it on Rosewood, is that you do what we're doing as far as planning goes. You get it approved with the city as far as meeting all the ordinances, and then it has to be realized before you're kind of given permission to open your business. What we're hoping for is a little bit of time to complete specifically the landscape, just because of the costs. Our current parking situation is really hurting our business. Again, just to stress that as being kind of the extenuating circumstances, as well as the businesses around us. Right. And so what we're hoping for is to go ahead and agree to a set of terms of plans on the buffer yard, the street protection yard, the variance as far as the setback on the building goes, and then complete all of that within a certain time period instead of having to immediately do that, just because the costs are so high in doing that. We could definitely get it done over a certain period of time, but we're asking for a little bit of allowance there.
Have you gotten a price to see what it would be to comply now?
Yes, sir. So our most conservative cost as far as not doing the addition to the building, just doing the concrete work that's required and the landscaping is somewhere around $40,000 to $50,000. And then with that addition of the building, obviously it goes way up to closer to 6 figures. So the idea is now that was just based on my architect's plans that he sent into a construction company to give us a quote back on that. So I'm completely just quoting them.
Part of that cost, you have to redo the parking that's there?
So not redo the parking, but there are some driveways that are going to have to be closed, as well as there's over 200 feet of the street buffer yard, that 5-foot section that goes around the entire perimeter of the property. That's not there right now. So you have to cut all that out, replace the curb cuts, driveways, things of that nature. And then where you see that back strip for the residential buffer yard, that's currently all concrete as well. So that's got to be cut out and removed, replace the curb cut. So the concrete work is really, the specific landscape requirements are what really pushes the price over for us. The building, I don't want to say that's a plus or minus. We kind of are trying to kill 2 birds with 1 stone and go ahead and get that residential buffer yard complete just to be efficient on our requests. But the main idea is just, we could operate out of the 250 square foot building that's there right now and quadruple our parking, go from 5 spaces to 23 spaces, which would just be phenomenal to solving all the problems of us and our neighbors. And we would still be in, in the spirit of the ordinance codes without really changing much of them, simply not immediately completing them to be operational on that property, if that makes sense.
I just want to be clear. The construction of the covered porch, Brian, is that the reason he has to have this application, or is it something else?
Right, so what's before you today is simply the addition that will partially encroach into the required buffer. The landscaping and additional information that was discussed, staff will address that with the applicant in various ways, but what you would be voting on today is the variance to the landscape buffer only for the addition within that said buffer.
So the existing structure that's now, you see the kind of the smaller, yeah, so that's what's there now as far as the structure goes. So all we're doing is adding that back section on. Where you see that curb cut in the top right-hand corner, we're just extending that curb cut straight over to the building, and there's about a 150 square foot portion that actually falls within that residential buffer yard.
Got it.
Yes, sir.
Got it. So, are you familiar with the criteria for this? Do you have those with you? Can you help
Yes, sir.
him with that, Brian?
Yes, sir.
So, the criteria for a variance, there's extraordinary and exceptional conditions that pertain to the subject property. So, I'm not going to put words in your mouth, but can you kind of give us what that part of the criteria would be here?
Yes, sir. So my focus with this is, again, that time allowance. Again, the building being in that residential buffer yard is something we're trying to be efficient with our space. We are currently in a situation where we have very little parking, and it's hurting our business as well as other businesses. So in order to get over to the property in an immediate manner, and I don't want to go so far as to say save the business, but to really save ourselves and stop affecting other businesses negatively in the area, that the extraordinary and exceptional conditions would be the damage to our business and impeding other businesses' ability to do business in the city.
And the existing structure is on the property line that you want to expand, so you would have to move that structure if you wanted to be in compliance and also expand it, right?
Yes, sir.
And then they don't generally apply to other properties in the vicinity here?
So there's not a lot of other properties with an existing structure that is so awkwardly placed with the current conditions. So ours is one of the unique ones on Rosewood for that.
Well put. And that by denying this, you would prohibit or unreasonably restrict the utilization of the property?
Yes, sir. So currently it has been sitting vacant for about 11 or 12 years, and it is far out of grandfather status, and it badly needs to be brought up to full code compliance. And if we don't get the variance, we won't be capable of bringing it up to full code compliance to use it.
And the authorization of this variance would not be substantially detrimental to adjacent properties or to the public good?
No, sir. We actually believe that the approval of this variance would actually be in the spirit of the variance, as it would allow us to further respect our residential neighbors, just as far as trying to keep everything to the smallest disturbance possible.
And this variance would be the minimum necessary to complete the planned improvements?
Yes, sir.
And finally, it's in harmony with the general purpose and intent of the zoning ordinance, and it will not be injurious to the neighborhood or otherwise detrimental to the public welfare.
Yes, sir, we believe it is.
Okay. Is there, thank you. Is there anyone else here in favor or opposition to this request? See none. So we've had testimony. Is there a motion?
Let's have some discussion. I just got some hesitation that the reason why we're granting this is because somebody doesn't have the capital to meet requirements at the current time. Maybe I'm oversimplifying it, but there's just, you've got certain requirements that are in the ordinance, and I just wonder, I love continuing ed. Some picking up something off continuing ed. I don't know that it necessarily sets a precedence, but I'm just kind of scratching my head. You know, I can't comply with the ordinance because we don't have the capital to do it right now. Well, everybody could pop up and say that.
You know,
I don't know that, I agree, I see what you're saying, but I don't know that it's necessarily that, but more of an attempt to reuse an existing structure, which makes it impossible to comply with the buffer setback, which to me, you know, is different than necessarily, I mean, you could have plenty of capital and you would want to, you know, use the existing structure and maximize the parking, which is a good thing. There's several good things about the proposal. One, it eliminates one curb cut. Two, it creates a border of landscaping around the perimeter of the property. And it provides, you know, a better egress and ingress and safer traffic flow onto Rosewood Drive.
I think one thing that gives me some comfort here is I think the proposal is timed appropriately because of the pending construction on the adjacent site. If it was already developed and we had a bunch of people living there, I would feel a little bit different about the request to, you know, to work with them regarding the landscape buffer, but I'm not sure the exact timing of that adjacent site, but it's bound to be a year, you know, 2 years or so before we have some neighbors. So hopefully in that period of time, he can make some of the improvements necessary. So I think we're fortunate in this case that the timing could work.
Is there any other discussion on the board? So I'd like to make a motion to approve this variance request based on the testimony of the applicant and subject to all of the conditions in this application by staff, and that it will be in substantial compliance with the exhibits shown in such application.
I'll second.
We have a motion and a second. All in favor say aye. Aye. All opposed?
Opposed?
One. Need a count? Are we good?
We're good.
Motion carries. Okay.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Next item is number 6. That's case 2017-0046, administrative appeal at 3002 Hammond Avenue, tax map 1161007 and 11. This is administrative appeal to the zoning administrator's denial to continuance of a non-conforming use. The Board of Zoning Appeals is empowered to hear and decide appeals when it is alleged that there is an error in any order, requirement, decision, or determination made by the zoning administrator in the enforcement of this article. The applicant is alleging that the zoning administrator erred by revoking approval on a zoning permit for a non-conforming manufactured home in a single-family residential zoning district that had been vacant, abandoned, and discontinued for a period in excess of 12 consecutive months. A manufactured home is not a permitted use in the RS3 single-family residential zoning district. An existing manufactured home on an individual lot that has been occupied and maintained may continue as a non-conforming use. A non-conforming use or characteristic of a use shall not be reestablished after vacancy, abandonment, or discontinuance for any period of 12 consecutive months. In this particular case, this lot and structure was acquired in February of 2017 from the Richland County Forfeited Land Commission, that according to the submitted quitclaim deed for the said parcel. The applicant originally came to the permit counter from the city, was issued an electrical permit and a permit to repair wooden deck on the structure, both routine permits that staff issues very often. Subsequently, staff was contacted by the City of Columbia Police Department and the Code Enforcement Division and advised that the structure had been abandoned for several years and was on their demolition list due to unsafe conditions. Based on the new information, staff immediately contacted the applicant and advised him of the non-conforming status and that the use could not continue. All of the above taking place between April 3rd, 2017 and April 12th, 2017. A stop work violation notice was posted on the structure on April 4th, as a photo in the packet that is attached. Additionally, the City of Columbia Deputy Housing Official, Mr. Mike O'Neill, informed staff that based on his personal knowledge, the home has been vacant and abandoned for over a year. Mr. O'Neill is here today as well, and he can confirm there's a demolition order on the structure due to its unsafe condition. I believe there are also a few folks from the neighborhood that are here today as well. The idea behind a non-conforming use is, again, it's allowed to continue, but it's not encouraged to survive. Non-conforming use is a term applied to lots, structures, uses of land, or structures or characteristics of use of land or structures which were lawful before the passage of the ordinance from which this article is derived, or before the amendment of this article, which are prohibited by this article or which are not in compliance with the requirements of this article. Reestablishing a non-conforming structure of this type after vacancy, abandonment, or discontinuance for any period of 12 consecutive months means that you can't establish it. The idea, it was there legally at some point, potentially, and if it were maintained, you could continue the use. I think staff has proven, based on the information that has been provided, that this home has been vacant for in excess of 12 consecutive months. City of Columbia water records indicate that the home has not had water for the last 4 years. Based on staff's observation and site visit, it would be consistent with that determination, and the zoning administrator respectfully requests that the determination be upheld based on the City of Columbia zoning ordinance 1755, 17201, 17202E, that the manufactured home has been vacant, abandoned, and/or the use discontinued for several years. The applicant is here too, can answer any questions and present his case.
Good morning. Good morning. My name is Theodore Green. This is my son, Eric Green. Good morning. We're the owners of the property on 3002 Hammond Avenue. And as was stated, we understand that it's no trailers within the City of Columbia. And by obtaining the permits for the electrical and the building permit, we went about changing windows, changing within the doors to do improvement, to place a deck on the front as well as on the back. And I came today just to talk with you to ask that this work continue, because we're here trying to help within the community. And whatever decision y'all make today is understandable, because I know that this trailer was grandfathered in, but the city requires no trailers within the city limit this time, back during that time. But now, for it being grandfathered in, we was hoping to just fix it up, being inspected by the inspected code, bringing it up to the code. The trailer itself, the floor is good. The walls we're changing out, refurbishing the whole bathroom.
Did the city explain to you that if it's been vacant for over a year, that clause, that it doesn't exist anymore, the grandfather clause is no longer there?
Oh, well, that they didn't say, that the clause don't exist no more. I got the paperwork saying the ordinance in which trailers are not supposed to be in, but I don't believe.
Vacant
I might have
for
misread
over 12
it. I might have
months.
misread it, but I don't remember seeing.
I mean, has it been vacant for more than 12 months?
That I don't know. I just bought it in February this year.
But the documentation says it has, and what it's worth, what we're taxed with today is, I think, is to make a determination if the zoning administrator made an error. This is not on the merits, am I right? This is not respectfully, I would tell you, we're not here to listen to the merits of should it be fixed up, can it be fixed up. This is an administrative appeal. So what we need to hear from you is how the zoning administrator made an error in telling you what he told you. This is not to get a variance or a special exception to let you do the work. What we're here to determine is, did the city make an error?
Well, the only error I can see is, on purchasing the property in Trilla. Went to receive the permit, nothing was stated that you can't do nothing there.
So when you bought the property, were you not advised by whomever you bought it from, or you should have had knowledge if you bought it direct or at the courthouse steps, that there's certain ordinances that have to be met, and if you're buying it and you're not in conformity with the ordinance, then you need to realize that what you're buying cannot be renovated.
Okay, well, that's my ignorance on my behalf, I would have to say, but it was never said to me.
Right. Well, unfortunately, that's, I think, kind of the dilemma that you find yourself in is if you didn't have representation, if you bought that property, you needed to know what you could do with it based on the city ordinances, and you should have done research at the time to know that the grandfather status had expired because the property had been abandoned for more than 12 months. So the issue that we've got is did the city make an error? That's what we're taxed at, and I feel for you, and I'm sorry, but I think what's happened is that there wasn't any due diligence by you on the front end when you went to purchase the property, and you find yourself with a piece of property that you've just got to be in conformance with the city ordinances.
Would you like to come to the podium and address state your name, please?
Sure. Good morning. My name's Erston Eric Green. I prefer Eric Green. I'm a son of Mr. Theodore Green. I was not present at the purchase. I was living in Colorado, out of state, but I have come to assist my father in his real estate attempts and property management endeavors. I understand definitely where you're coming from, Mr. Meekin, excuse me. This is not really a matter of administrative mistake. All respect to you, administrator. This is more of a breakdown between the public sector and the people. Mr. Green did not understand when he got it from the Forfeited Land Commission that the county is separate from the city, that those things do not overlap and they don't always speak and communicate with each other. He was ill-informed that the site was illegally set up. He was happy to purchase a property.
Nobody gets informed anything when you buy a tax sale. You just get a quick claim deed, that's all you get. There's no, it's basically buyer beware. You get a quick claim deed and that's all you get.
Yes, sir, I understand that. Again, I was not present when Mr. Green purchased the property, but more so just to take the committee's time and present that he would like to help the community. The point of purchasing this property and other properties is to revitalize different parts of Richland County, the different empowerment zones, the Belvedere neighborhood where this a piece of property is. We're going to purchase another property around the corner on English Avenue, as well as the Denny Terrace area and the Haskell Heights area that are in the county. Again, my name's Eric Green. I represent our company, Richland Revitalization Group, R&R Group. I do apologize for taking your guys' time. I think Mr. Green would more so like some reciprocation or some guidance in if he can recoup any cost or if he can take his materials back.
We can't provide anything like that. In other words, all we're here to say is whether he made an error or not.
I understand, sir.
Okay.
I understand, sir.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you for your testimony.
You're welcome.
Thank you.
Mr. Cook, would you care to make any comments?
Just simply that it's a good lot. There's a lot that can be done with a single-family home in that lot, and staff will certainly be glad to work with the owner on that if they so choose to move forward. It has a lot of potential, but I don't have anything else to add specifically on this case.
That being said, I'll make a motion to deny the administrative appeal for case number 2017-0046-AA 3002, Hammond Avenue.
I second the motion.
We have a motion and a second. All in favor say aye. Aye. All opposed? Motion carries.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Next item on the agenda is item number 7. That's 2017-0048 special exception. It's at 2109 Sumter Street, tax map 09016-1206. It's a special exception to establish a furniture manufacturing facility. This location is zoned MX1 and is within the North Main Overlay District. The subject property is approximately 5,252 square feet and has served as a storage facility in recent years. The property is surrounded by various commercial and residential uses. The applicant, again, proposes to make furniture. He specializes in furniture and would like to retail some of that furniture in that location. Basically, it's an old brick warehouse, kind of consistent with other buildings in that particular area. The applicant already has a business in another jurisdiction. He'd like to come into the city of Columbia with his business, and because of the district, a special exception is required. The applicant is here and can tell you a little bit more about his case.
Okay.
Good morning.
Morning.
We are real pleased.
Could you state your name just for the
I'm
record?
Howard Hammer, and this is Josh Cox. He's the owner of the business, and I am one of the partners in a good bit of that land that you see on the screen. The cars behind it is owned by our families, the Hammer and Bernstein family. There are 3 of us. We're about 8 cousins. 3 of us are here in Columbia. Myself, my cousins Lowell Bernstein and Beth Bernstein, and the rest are scattered throughout the state and other places. But that's family property. And we are real pleased with the opportunity most of it is vacant property. We're real pleased with the opportunity that is presented by this exception. It reminds me a little bit of what happened initially down in the Vista, where Clark Eford, Lewis and Clark, moved in as one of the first businesses down there. It was a high-end furniture type of business, and that's what essentially Josh has. It's a workshop. It's going to be high-end furniture, custom type of furniture, beautiful tables, and an opportunity to repair the building, to have, rather than what it's used for now, which is storage. It's been used for storage as a warehouse for many years, continuing, an opportunity to have someone on premises to keep out some of the problems that we've had with traffic going through there and break-ins and things of that sort. So we're real pleased with it, and we think that it adds a tremendous amount to the area and to what's going on in that area right now. And I don't know whether you have any questions. Josh may have some more information that he could give to you.
So you're the owner of the property, and Josh would be the tenant?
Yes, it's owned under a LLC SH3, I believe is what it is. But there are various. That particular building that's circled off with the purple is owned under SH3. The rest of it's owned under various names and various LLCs, but they're all it's all owned by the same family members.
Right.
We're all involved.
Right, gotcha.
How are you all?
Fine, thank you.
I'm Josh Cox, and I own Bricker and Beam, which, as you've been briefed, is a custom furniture operation. Our current workshop is in West Columbia. It's about a 1,500 square foot shop. It's just getting a little too small for what we're doing. Right now, it's just me and one part-time employee, so it's listed as a manufacturing facility. It's not so much some industrial cabinet shop or something that you may originally come to mind. It's more so a glorified workshop, similar to what Howard was saying with the Lewis and Clark. But basically, what we're looking to do here is just expand our footprint. Right now, we have a long, skinny building to have just more elbow room to build the furniture. But the concept would be almost like an artist or a meet and greet where you can come and see the artist painting, things like that, as opposed to some big industrial manufacturing thing. Everything would be self-contained. Currently, our shop is located between high-end, the Bridgeport condominiums in West Columbia and the new flow on the river, the high-end condos. And so, right now, if we can exist between those two parties with no complaints, I think that we can exist here where there's a lot of extra space with no complaints as well.
Gotcha.
As far as upfits, we're mainly just looking to clean up all the foliage. There's some kudzu, clean up the interior of the building, add some paint, make it look better. But we're not looking to do any structural add-ons or additions, or we're not going to tear anything down. Really not going to do anything like that. Just looking to clean up the building and pretty much use it as is. I've met with someone in parking and in the design to go over to make sure that we're design compliant and parking compliant. As you can see in the illustration, it's a sort of a gated property, and the door is more where the building is. So plenty of parking within this fenced-in area, well over whatever would be required.
So, do you have a copy of your application?
I have it. I had pulled up on my phone, but I don't have it in front of me right now.
Could we get him just a copy just to refresh his memory? I just want to go through this. I mean, it's a special exception, which is a land use that's provided as allowed by special exception. So it's a little different, but let's just make sure we're going through everything. So the special criteria for the special exception: vehicular and pedestrian safety will not have a substantial adverse impact on that. That you have to prove that would not have a substantial impact on the safety and vehicular pedestrian safety.
Sure. And right now we don't anticipate a lot of vehicular traffic. We're not going to have lumber deliveries, steel deliveries. That's something that I usually go pick up personally. So we're not planning to have 18-wheelers or anything deliver any type of substantial thing like that. It's mainly just to continue our current operation, just in a slightly larger space.
And it wouldn't have a substantial impact on the neighboring properties from environmental factors such as noise, lights, glare, vibration, fumes, odors, obstruction of air or light, or litter.
Again, I wouldn't assume so, mainly because, like I said, we're currently in between, very expensive residences, and so I think that they would probably, have complained by now if we were causing an issue.
Right.
And so I think with more space around the building, we don't have any loud machines, or we shouldn't cause any problems in that regard.
Then aesthetics will not have a substantial adverse impact on the aesthetic character of the area, to include a review of the orientation and spacing of the buildings.
Yeah, I think maybe even the inverse would be true, that we would hopefully have a positive impact. Obviously, currently the building has broken windows, different colored paints, mismatching, and so I would hope that as we clean with the building, add a little bit of updated paint, that it would really look good, hopefully.
Right. And that it won't have a substantial impact on safety, public safety, or create a nuisance condition detrimental to the public interest.
I wouldn't think so. Mainly, it's like I said, it's going to be self-contained. I don't anticipate a lot of foot traffic or anything. We have this gate that we can close. There's a gate on the other side of the property as well, so I can't imagine that what we're doing would cause any problems.
And the establishment of this special exception will not create a concentration or proliferation of the same or similar type special exceptions within the area.
Yeah, I can't imagine that it would affect anything. I said, kind of being self-contained.
I don't think there are many furniture manufacturing areas in that neighborhood.
Yeah,
Okay,
I can't imagine
Might
that
be
it would.
thinking
good
off a
there.
tree to table.
Yeah.
I like that term.
My mother is an English teacher, so she's always taught me to write, and so it's a blessing and a curse sometimes.
Okay. And it's consistent with the character and intent of the underlying district and the zoning district description with the application zoning overlay district and requirements.
Yes, in fact, in following with, restaurant like the Warmouth, the Indie Coffee, and the Circuit Barbershop, all those businesses coming to that area, we're hoping to kind of bring that, not to sound maybe, I don't know, but we're just hoping to have more of a hip, cool vibe, kind of bring in an art aspect or element to that district. And so I
And
think
the
that-
proposed special exception is appropriate for the location and compatible with the permitted uses adjacent to and in the vicinity of the property.
As far as I'm aware, I think we're okay.
And it was a warehouse, I believe, originally, in its use. And then the proposed special exception will not adversely affect the public interest.
Again, all hope is that it would do the opposite, that it would hopefully benefit and elevate the area.
Well, yeah, I think that you've answered, those questions, and I would like to do a little aside, but I have to say that as a young commercial broker, I leased Michael Craig his first shop on Lady Street.
Really?
Yeah.
Wow.
And, so it's very true that furniture manufacturing is very compatible with the district that you're going into. I mean, it was almost a tourist destination at one point in time when he became so famous. But, yeah, I can see why this would be a very, very good use for the area and the building. Thank you, sir. Is there anyone else here in favor or opposition to this application? Hi.
Good morning. My name is Stephanie Cleek, and I am an advocate for Miss Bonnie Horn. She owns the two properties behind this building, and she would like to oppose this special variance because there's several issues that are raised. You talked about the best interest of the community, and these buildings behind this establishment are residential. They have families, 7 of them to be exact. Yesterday, as a matter of fact, one of our tenants just had a baby. I understand that he is, they want to do a furniture manufacturing facility here, and I heard mention of storage. Well, with storage comes the machinery, the noise pollution, the varnishing, all of the chemical factors that would be released into the environment. I think that some of the waste removal that has, as you said, when they're empty buildings, it needs to be cleaned up and presented in a nice fashion. Well, the dumpster from the Granite Place has been sitting there almost 2 years, full and overflowing. Do we expect the same thing from the next manufacturer? Is there,
I'm sorry, what company was that?
Oh, I'm sorry, 1219 and 1215 Elmwood Avenue. Miss Bonnie Horn is the owner of both properties. They're directly
Elmwood.
behind, right off the main street on Elmwood. Am
What business was that? Was that in this property, in this structure, or was it something else?
We are, as I understand it, they are directly behind Miss Horn's law firm and her residential properties that she owns.
He's asking you what business was there when the overflow.
Oh, it was a Granite Place. I'm sorry, I don't have the name of it. Let's see. No, the Granite Place moved out more than a year ago, but the dumpster remains. I wish I had the name of it on handy. I'm sorry, I don't.
Sorry, and I just want to make sure I'm clear. So you're a neighbor and you're objecting to this, or you're objecting on behalf of a neighbor? I couldn't
On behalf of Ms. Horn, she owns the adjacent properties that
Which
face
property?
out. 1215 and 1219 Elmwood.
Elmwood? Is that the corner?
The corner is a car lot. She owns the two residential buildings next door. At the corner of Main and Elmwood.
Gotcha. So off the corner. So she owns this property. Is that her residence?
It is a residential building, yes. She is, Unit 1 is her law firm, and the others are tenants.
So it's a kind of a mixed use, residential and law office.
Yes, sir.
Okay.
One of the points that, we thought we had brought more to the community with the ballpark, and, we're trying to keep the area family-oriented. And not that this would not bring business to the area, but there are other locations that would be more suitable, I think, because of the reason, the environmental factors for one, families. I myself would think that the city would have made it more of a community center. That's such a big lot. They could have put a community center with a park for the veterans, for the children, for the families, and more of a less poisonous factor.
But when you say poisonous, all the everything's contained. It's not like a car lot that's sitting with a bunch of cars that can. I'm just trying to make the connection. This is somebody that's that corridor thankfully is exploding because you've got a lot of good redevelopment that's happening.
Well, does this building have the vacuum systems already in place, or is that something that they're going to add in?
Well, my understanding was this is not like a mass furniture manufacturing application here. This is a specialty handmade, crafted, furniture application, which is, a whole lot different than, a factory per se.
Okay.
It's still called manufacturing, but I mean, a lot of people would call it crafting or other terms, but I don't see that as. People can do this in their garage, all day long, and the exact same thing that he would be doing.
So what you're stating, sir, is that there is going to be no manufacturing equipment installed?
I'm sure he's got planers and saws and things like that to cut wood with and stir it, but it's not like you're going to have a giant production facility in your backyard. It's going to be more like your next door neighbor does woodworking in his garage.
Right, and that's how it starts out, but if he expands and his business becomes more profitable, most people want to expand.
He'll need to get a special exception.
Then he would have to go for another, okay. All right.
Okay.
Was there any, besides this hearing, was there any other special notification or requirements that he is to be done for,
Yes.
residential? Because it is a business and residential, and her concern is for the tenants and the families that are there. And that information, I'm sure, is already in your packet from the person applying, correct?
Correct. And
Okay.
so, should the board approve it, it will be subject to the facility to operate in substantial conformance with the application that's been submitted, materials and testimony before the board regarding its operation, and shall conform to all relevant city development regulations to include building and fire code. And then, should it be abandoned or vacated for a period of 12 consecutive months, after that, then the special exception shall expire. You bring up some good points. Could we have the applicant come back up to the stand? No, sir. The business owner.
Yes, sir.
I'm sorry, you were the applicant, but yeah. So, what's the hours of operation of your furniture company?
Sure. Generally, I get to the shop around 9 a.m., and I usually leave between 5 and 5:30. My wife and I just had a baby, and so obviously I have to get back to help the wife take care of her.
So, would you be willing to restrict your the hours to say, I don't know, 9 to 8 to 8 or something like that, 8 in the morning till 8 at night?
Of course.
Does that sound reasonable?
Sure. I would have no reason to be there overnight or after hours when it would cause a problem.
Okay. Very good. And then, as far as outside storage and all that concerned, would you be willing to, agree not to store, lumber and stuff outside?
Oh, of course. With the type of lumber that we deal with, it's all, it's temperature and moisture. It has to be a certain element or a certain time, and so I wouldn't be storing anything outside anyway.
Okay. So that would be no problem with you as far as a stipulation for the special exception?
Sure, that wouldn't be a problem at all.
Okay. Thank you, sir. Thank you, ma'am. Is there any other testimony for or against this application? Then I would like to make a motion to approve this request for a special exception, subject to the criteria stipulated by staff in the application, and with the stipulation that the business operation shall run from 8 a.m. to 8 p.m. Only during the day, and that, or those between the hours of 8 a.m. and 8 p.m. daily, and that no outside storage will be conducted on site.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. All opposed? Motion carries. Thank you. I want one of those beds.
Mr. Chairman, next item is item number 8. It's case 2017-0057, correction, 0050. It's 1102 Hugie Street, tax map 08912, 10 and 16. It's a variance to the parking requirements for a proposed restaurant. There's an existing approximately 5,880 square foot building that has been on this lot since the late 40s or 50s. It covers pretty much the whole lot. There's no existing parking available on this lot. The applicant is proposing to utilize a portion, approximately 2,900 square feet of the existing building for restaurant use, while keeping the remaining bulk of the balance at approximately 2,980 square feet as warehouse space. The required parking for a restaurant after the reductions in the area would be 10 parking spaces. The applicant is asking for a variance today for a proposed 0 on site instead. Generally, as you can see, there is some street parking that was recently installed by the City of Columbia that could be utilized for this particular restaurant or any use. If there was a use other than the restaurant that wanted to go in this building, there are ways within our ordinance to allow, say for example, a retail use to go with 0 parking without coming to the board. So it's site-specific relative to a restaurant and a portion of this existing building. Again, if you see the screen, the blue line is, kind of roughly what you have for the lot lines, and the building pretty much covers all within. So the applicant is here and can answer any specific questions that you may have.
Very well.
Good morning. My name is Charles Brooks. If you like, I can give you a little summary of my thoughts, or if you want to skip what I think and go to Q&A.
Do you have your application handy?
I don't. I guess I do. Yes,
So we just kind of like to go through the variance part so that we make sure we covered everything that's in the code from the standpoint of why we would grant the variance. If you want to just kind of start with the criteria, with the exceptional and extraordinary exceptional conditions pertaining to this piece of property. First one being that it's on a 0 lot line. The building takes up every inch of the space.
takes up about 95% of the lot. And I'm not really sure, I can't quickly identify where you are on this application. Okay, gotcha. Okay, I've answered number one.
Yeah, and then,
95% coverage.
these conditions don't generally apply to other properties in the vicinity? These conditions don't generally apply to other properties in the vicinity?
No, I think my building and property are the only ones that have such an animal.
And that, because of these conditions, that the application of this division of this particular piece of property would effectively prohibit or unreasonably restrict the utilization of the property?
If you were to take the collective unused balance of the land, you could put about 75% of a car on it, meaning 25% would have to park somewhere else, one car.
So number 4 is that there would not be that the variance, authorization of the variance would not be a substantial detriment to the adjacent property or to the public good, and the character of the district will not be harmed.
I don't think so, which really kind of gives me an opportunity to go back to my original thought in summary, is I bought this property, not this specific lot, but in general the entire property 35 years ago. And it took me about 15 years to accumulate 100% of it. And I did own some on the other side of the line towards the bank, but we kind of swapped around where they had 100% of one half and I had 100% of the other half. And that street, that 500 block of Senate, as Mr. Good Cook just pointed out, the city put curbs and gutter and paved it about a year ago, I guess, and I had lobbied for that for about 35 years because it was just, well, you can't see what's up there, but it was no curb and not much of an asphalt street. And what they really did, in essence, is pave 39 parking spaces for nobody because there's no building, there's no business that fronts Senate Street. And
Looks like they made them for you.
well, I wasn't going to say that. The front door of my building is on Huger Street, but the restaurant in their renovation process is going to move the front door to Senate Street. So I guess you could say technically I'll be the only building fronting Senate Street. As you can see across the street, the bank has bought that property and made it into a parking lot. And on the other corner, the south side over on Pulaski, that little savings or credit bank faces Pulaski and they have their own parking lot. So I'm the only business there, and as you say, it appears that they paved 39 parking spaces for my use. And what I would like to do is capture the opportunity to use it.
Is this the building where the old one-eared cow people were?
Exactly.
Yeah, that's right.
Just going through this, then it will have no substantial detriment to adjacent property owners. We've done that one. And then the reasons set forth in the application justify granting the variance, and the variance is the minimum necessary to make possible the reasonable use of the land, building, and structure. Or structure.
Yes.
And then granting the variance will be in harmony with the general purpose and intent of the zoning ordinance. It will not be injurious to the neighborhood or otherwise detrimental to the public welfare. Thank you, Mr. Brooks.
Thank you.
Is there any questions, or is there anyone in the audience here in opposition or favor of this application?
I had several people call me wanting to come down and, assist me if I needed it, but I didn't think that I did, so save time and trouble for everybody.
So noted.
Make a motion to approve the variance request for 1102 UG Street, case number 2017-0050-V. We would base that on the criteria set forth in the testimony given by the applicant.
Second. All in favor say aye. Aye. All opposed? Motion carries.
Last item is item number 9, 2017-0051 variance at 4611 Pine Grove Court, tax map 13913-0504, variance to the front yard setback requirements for single-family residents. This is a corner lot in a RS1 single-family residential district. The applicant is requesting this variance to the front yard setback requirements in order to accommodate a proposed approximately 48 square foot screen porch addition on the front of an existing single-family residence. A front yard setback of 35 feet is normally required in RS1. The applicant is proposing a front yard setback of approximately 30 feet instead. The proposed addition would extend off an existing porch along the front facade of the residence. The applicant is here and can answer any questions.
Mr. Chair, board members, my name is Christopher Anderson. I'm at 4611 Pine Grove Court. Just real quick, wanted to go through some of the questions that you've asked applicants. I know y'all are probably ready to get out of here. So describe the extraordinary and exceptional conditions. Based on the lot size, the pie-shaped lot, it's very difficult for any type of additions. As you can kind of see, as the lot has a little bit of a pie shape, it does, as I go off the front, limit some of my front yard setbacks. So currently I'm out of compliance and probably grandfathered in with my existing structure when I bought the house 9 years ago. Describe how the conditions above do not generally apply to other structures. I think I'll just reiterate the unique shape of the lot being pie-shaped and how it does actually, I am at the corner. So my setbacks, based on the existing structure are pretty tight. Describe the ways in which the application or the requirements of the zoning administration effectively prohibit or unreasonably restrict the utilization of the subject property. This basically quarantines me in that just a small little addition is impossible based on the current setbacks. I would say too that I feel like it could be a win-win. I could get into compliance with my existing structure as well as enhance the properties or improve the property. And then describe the ways in which granting of the variance will be substantial detriment to the adjacent property owners. I did speak to all my property owners that are adjacent to the property, and I do have their signatures supporting the variance. There are two that are not on there that gave verbal support, the Louthians and the McMasters, but all my adjacent neighbors are signed there if y'all would like to see that. Let's see, is the variance request at a minimum necessary? I would say yes. I would like to be in compliance completely with the setback requirements, and the variance would allow me to just, throughout the whole project, completely be in compliance.
So this is just an extension of your existing covered porch, the same line and everything, roof line, everything else is exactly the same.
Yes, sir.
By the way, I love your house. My wife and I walk by it all the time. It looks like a mountain house. The other thing that's very extraordinary about this is that the topography of that lot is pretty severe.
It is.
So it's not like you've got a nice flat parcel to deal with. Porches are, I'm sure, very nice to have.
Yes, very much so.
Very good. Is there any questions from the board? I don't see anyone here from a testimony standpoint. I'd like to make a motion that we approve this request based on the criteria of the applicant and the application is subject to any stipulations noted by staff. We have a motion and a second. All in favor say aye. Aye. All opposed?
Can I say one thing?
Yes, sir.
thank you all for your service. I serve on a similar board. I know nobody's getting a paycheck up here, and I know sometimes y'all have to listen to a lot, so thank you all.
Thank you.
They get paid, I don't know.
Yeah, what board are you on?
Yeah, and thank you for going through the criteria yourself without me having to lead you. That was great.
Mr. Chairman, that concludes the business that we have today.
Okay, is there a motion to adjourn?
Make a motion to adjourn.
Second? All in favor, say aye. Aye. Adjourned. Thank you, sir. It's a record.